One of the most maligned ships to have come out of any shipbuilder's yard is the Cobra Mark IV, the big brother to one of the most beloved ships in space, the Mark III. Continuing our revisionist series on lesser-flown models, this month we take another look at the Mark IV and ask, is there really nothing it's good for? Commander Unrealization is an explorer. Apart from his own solo excursions, he has led convoys across the galaxy and served as a civic leader in Colonia. He has probably flown the Cobra Mark IV as much as anyone. He first bought one just to see what it was like.
I'm a huge fan of the Cobra Mark III. It is actually my main ship for hopping from A to B, and my exploration ship as well, as crazy as that may seem. Initially, I was simply curious to see how the new model of Cobra would differ from the old one.
The Mark IV follows a design pattern Falcon de Lacy have employed before, that of taking a popular chassis known for its speed and handling, and giving it greater survivability and module flexibility. The Viper Mark IV is the most well-known of these experiments. Broadly considered a success, the Viper Mark IV resembles a Mark III in appearance, but is a very different beast. It is broader, larger, more capacious, and better armored than its sibling. It finds use among a small but enthusiastic cohort of Pilot Federation commanders, who praise its flexibility. The design of the Cobra Mark IV follows this logic. It takes the Cobra Mark III frame, universally popular for its unusual combination of speed and cargo capacity, and beefs it up, adding more module space, armor, and increasing its arsenal.
I like to call the Mark III the little brother of the Mark IV, even though it's not completely accurate.
So why does nobody fly it? To answer this question, it's worth revisiting the Mark III to explore why that ship is so loved. Reviewed extensively in this magazine in issue 5, the Cobra Mark III is a classic. It is consistently one of the most commonly bought ships among Pilots Federation members, and is an essential step along the common ship progression that marks a pilot's career.
I simply fell in love with the Mark III as soon as I could afford it. I enjoyed speed and handling, especially in Super Cruise, and the fact that it can do 5 to 6 jumps on a single fuel tank is something I found very convenient in places where scoopable stars are rare. It also makes an extremely good jump ramp for SRVs when gathering materials planetside with friends. I also think the compartment sizes are perfect for the ship. A size 4 fuel scoop allows me to refuel while I align for my next jump, and usually come out full each time. That means I can keep jumping indefinitely.
It is a true multi-role ship that can turn its hand to any task a career pilot might throw at it, with 3 outstanding features. Blistering speed. Properly outfitted, the ship cruises at close to the speed of sound, boost aside. Impressive cargo capacity, and low price. It's fast, competitively armed and armored, and can carry over double the cargo of a hauler, for less than half the price of the next dedicated cargo ship, the Lakon Type 6. The Mark IV is very different. In designing the Mark IV, the Falcon de Lacy engineers took the radical step of removing the most striking of these 3 advantages: speed. The Cobra Mark IV is slow.
In normal space or planetside, you can feel the weight difference. The Mark IV turns a bit slower. For stock configurations, the Mark IV actually boosts only slightly faster than a Mark III can go without boosting.
With an unmodified cruise speed of 200 meters per second, the Mark IV's speed is equal to that of Saud Kruger's Beluga liner, which is less a ship than a mobile holiday resort. The sensation of raw speed is one of the facets of spaceflight that most draws pilots to the flight seat, and its removal from a classic so known for precisely that characteristic was a bold bet on the part of Falcon de Lacy. What could make up for such a drastic reduction in speed?
The Mark IV has one additional size 4 and size 3 module compartment each, and it upgraded one of the size 2 compartments to a size 3. It also comes with an additional small hardpoint. These changes are reflected in its weight and therefore its jump range and speed, which are reduced compared to the Mark III. It also features a few slight changes to the exterior, with small winglets on its back and 2 small protrusions on its front.
The Mark IV's extra hardpoint is rarely cited as a redeeming feature. The original, though capable of defending itself, isn't a natural combateer, and the addition of an extra hardpoint while depriving the ship of its speed advantage is generally thought to leave the hull, on balance, less suited to combat.
Due to its lack of turning speed, I wouldn't recommend the Cobra Mark IV as a combat vessel. For someone who just recently made enough money to afford a Cobra and wants to do combat, I'd suggest using an Eagle or a Viper, as agility is an important part of combat.
However, he admits he has not pushed the combat potential of his Mark IV that far.
The weapons on my Cobra Mark IV are mostly there as a deterrent, and I haven't made any modifications in regards to its combat abilities, like enhancing the power distributor. Given that nowadays everyone has the ship's modifiers at the brim, I wouldn't consider my Mark IV all that suited for combat. Still, I have killed a few small ships like Eagles in self-defense.
However, as any spacefaring grease monkey will tell you, the showroom specifications for any ship are only part of the story.
After the emergence of the engineers, which conveniently happened around the time Falcon DeLacy introduced the Cobra Mark IV, we weren't limited to just using stock modules anymore. That helped a lot with both the speed and jump range issue. I'm sure with proper modifications, it can be a pretty decent fighter.
However, the size of the ship's power distributor is a real limiting factor in its combat potential.
Personally, I disagree most with the decision to add an additional hardpoint but not upgrade the ship's power distributor, especially if a laser is used in that extra hardpoint. You run out of weapon power noticeably quicker than with the Mark III.
So why does Unrealization fly the Mark IV? Those extra, larger module slots translate to flexibility.
In the Cobra Mark III, I have to choose between bringing a single surface recon vehicle, or SRV, or cargo racks. With the Mark IV, I can carry 2 SRVs and cargo racks, assuming an otherwise identical setup. It provides more flexibility on how to outfit it.
Mining is another activity that requires a lot of module slots, and doesn't require a fast ship.
Due to its slower speed, the Mark IV also allows for some more precision than faster ships when getting close to things. While I personally haven't tried it for mining, I'm pretty sure it would make a better miner than the Mark III, both because of the module compartments and the aforementioned precision, which can be very useful when maneuvering around rocks in planetary rings.
Extra module slots also mean extra cargo capacity. The Mark III can carry an absolute maximum of 64 tons of cargo. The Mark IV can carry 92 tons. That's an increase of nearly 40%. The Mark IV has no fewer than 4 Class 4 module slots, 2 Class 3s, 2 Class 2s, and 2 Class 1s. That makes the Cobra Mark IV comfortably the most capacious small ship, and puts it aside much larger ships like the Keelback in raw cargo capacity. However, the plaudit of most cargo capacity on a small ship isn't a particularly compelling pitch, especially when considering that there are no stations or outposts restricted to small landing pads. Buyers are not constrained by a ship's size, they are constrained by its cost. The Lakon Type 6 carries 22 tons more cargo, and is only 300,000 credits dearer, and is 10% faster out of the showroom to boot. Unrealization explains how he uses the Mark IV.
I use the Cobra Mark IV mostly for exploration near the bubble. Its main role in my fleet is an alien research vessel. Being able to slowly approach and scoop up a Thargoid probe and keep it safe in corrosion-resistant cargo racks is the main reason for me to keep it.
Most Thargoid research, and Guardian research for that matter, does not need to take place very far from the bubble. The Pleiades are only a few jumps away, and the Guardian ruins can be found within a few hundred light-years of Sol. The Mark IV's stock 24.9 light-year jump range is more than adequate for distances like these. Unrealization, however, has taken the Mark IV further afield.
I used the Mark IV during the August Exodus expedition. Due to a cooperation between the expedition and the Twin Candles Initiative, Many commanders brought along slaves for the expedition, with the intention to free them on arrival at Jacques Station to be the first settlers in what is now known as Colonia. Because of the Mark IV's ability to have SRVs and room to safely transport cargo, I chose it over the Mark III. Its flexibility to set up made the difference.
He concedes, however, that this was a very specific use case.
I wouldn't use it for my regular exploration trips because I simply enjoy the speed of the Mark III too much, and boosting through a canyon somewhere far from home is something I'd like to do to mix things up. But whenever I need to travel and transport something at the same time, the Cobra Mark IV is my ship of choice, despite doing a few light years fewer per jump.
Unrealization has clearly experienced some wonderful things in his Mark IV, associations which, we suspect, form part of the ship's enduring appeal for him.
One of the fondest memories of my time as an explorer overall is connected to the Cobra Mark IV, the August Exodus expedition. I consider it a tremendous honor to have been part of the organization team of the expedition that ultimately led to the creation of Colonia. And I made many friends during that time.
The August Exodus Jaunt to Jacques expedition of 3302 was the largest and most organized supply convoy to the stricken starport, helping to seed the nascent colony.
There's a little anecdote about my way back to the bubble after the expedition. I stumbled across a downed fighter a couple of thousand light years into the return trip. Thanks to having cargo racks, I was able to save the occupants. I carried them all the way to just a few thousand light years outside the bubble, where I passed them to Commander Satsuma, who carried them back all the way to Colonia, where as far as I am aware, they are now leading a happy life.
One of the common arguments against the viability of the ship is that not everyone can buy it. The fruit of an unusual marketing plan by Falcon DeLacy and the Pilots Federation, its sale is limited to pilots and corporate customers who gained their pilot's license before certain dates in 3302.
It's a shame they don't allow everyone to have it. In my opinion, it's been exclusive for long enough, and it's certainly no game changer. Without modifications, it can feel a bit sluggish. It does turn slower than the Mark III, and it has a lower jump range.
But it still has a place, and a specialism.
I do disagree with many of the commanders I've talked to who say that it is useless, just a heavier Cobra. The additional compartments provide more flexibility and, in my opinion, justify the continued production of the Mark IV.
Unrealization is perhaps more forgiving of the ship than some potential owners.
In addition to being able to make improvements, I'm also very tolerant when it comes to its drawbacks. I can accept that the added flexibility comes at a cost. I don't always need to be fast, either in normal space or while traversing the galaxy.
We suspect that part of his enduring fondness for the Mark IV might be attributable to the remarkable memories he has gained while in its flight seat. However, his final assessment of its capabilities is clear-eyed.
The Cobra Mark IV isn't a ship I wouldn't recommend at all, but I think it's a bit of a niche product. For an inexperienced commander looking to do a little bit of everything, it can be a viable alternative to the Mark III.
It has one other feature worthy of note too.
The flat nose of the Cobra makes it very easy to put it on the ground to allow SRV drivers to drive onto the ship. Depending on the ship's angle and the SRV speed, that can lead to quite a nice jump. In that regard, it's kind of like a portable hill.